Hello, and welcome to all of you here joining us at Outlier 2021, the first ever global conference hosted by the Data Visualization Society. My name is Amanda Makulec, and I'm the incoming Executive Director for DVS. You may know me from the past as the Operations Director over the last 2 years. During that time, I managed finances, operations, and logistics, and things like our charitable status application that enabled me to have a chance to work with members across our entire board. I'm very excited to be stepping into this new leadership role and finding new ways to support, scale, and improve our organization as we aim to have global reach to data visualization professionals around the world. During this talk today, I'll spend a little bit of time sharing some background about me and how I'm bringing those thoughts into my new role as the executive director, as well as having a conversation about where we've been and where we're going as an organization, which I hope you're interested in either as a current member or a future member thinking about joining after your great experience at Outlier. My background is actually in public health. I have my master's in public health from Boston University, and I have my undergrad degrees in zoology and sociology from Miami University of Ohio. As I think about my career path over more than a decade that's led me to now be the data viz lead at a tech consulting firm based in Washington, D.C., I never would have guessed that this is a job that was even possible back when I was mulling over careers when I was younger. I always thought I'd pursue clinical practice. I was pre-med. I thought I'd go on to be a physician. I did all the pre-med curricula and did all the groundwork to make that happen. But as I kept thinking about what my day-to-day work would look like, I was far more passionate about finding ways to actually keep people from getting sick before they walked into a doctor's office, rather than being the one actually treating them. This is where public health came in. Public health focuses on how we use data to inform decisions about policy, budget, access to different care and services, and the kind of treatments that are actually rendered and available in order to help prevent populations from getting sick and to address various crises like what we've seen over the past year. Because this is a discipline centered on data, I've had opportunities to work on monitoring and evaluation, research, and health information systems projects around the world. This has given me an opportunity to work with data in many different contexts with audiences of varying degrees of data literacy, graphicacy, and understanding of data visualization design. I've been lucky enough to work in more than a dozen countries across sub-Saharan Africa alone, to work with community advocacy organizations and national governments around data visualization. I'm excited to bring some of those global experiences and those global networks into DVS, and I'm excited to have an organization like this, which we can recommend and share with others who are thinking about or just newly exploring this field of data visualization design, and which hopefully can feel like a comfortable professional home for anyone who uses data in their work, from an epidemiologist to a physicist to a dedicated data analyst working on a government contract. With that, I'd love to switch gears, stop talking about me, and talk a bit more about DVS as an organization. Where are we going, and where have we been? So, where did DVS start? DVS was founded out of a belief that there was value in connecting people who were mainly siloed into tool-specific communities by bringing people together to talk about the fundamental discipline of data visualization. Data Visualization Society was really born out of some serendipitous connections that happened at the Tapestry Conference in 2018, where Molly, Elijah, and Amy came away with the idea, following some of the chats and talks that happened there, that there may be an opportunity to bring people together in this kind of organization. Now, 2 years later, we have almost 17,000 members around the world, and we're proud of what we've built over the course of the last year, bringing people from across tech stacks and tools together in order to connect on these fundamentals of data visualization design. The Data Visualization Society aims to collect and establish best practices, fostering a community that supports members as they grow and develop data visualization skills. As data grows to be more central to our personal and professional lives, the practice of data visualization becomes ever more important. And no time has that been more in the spotlight and on the front covers of the newspapers and over the course of the last year, as we watch various different issues that were brought up and discussed and shared in the context of data. Charts and graphs looking at COVID-19, now charts and graphs looking at vaccination coverage, data gaps that exposed issues in equity in our societies, and watching various other current events play out across maps and charts on news media worldwide. So let's talk a little bit about where the Data Visualization Society has been. Where did we start, and what have we done over the course of these first 2 years? Our first 2 years included our launch back 2 years ago, and then an expansion over to having a board and advisory council, and launching various different programs and platforms like Nightingale, our COVID-19 matchmaking program, pairing data viz professionals with organizations seeking that kind of help and support in the public health space, fireside chats, data viz buddies, and reaching our 17,000 member mark by the end of 2020. We also, during that second year, achieved our 501c3 status, which may seem like an administrative checkbox, but actually enables us to have different grants and partnerships that otherwise would not be available. We hosted our first annual general meeting just last month in January, where we actually brought on new board members for some of the open roles, including new roles such as the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, who will be responsible for ensuring that our board and us as an organization are living up to our goal and our stated value of being a diverse, inclusive, and equitable organization that is welcoming to all around the world. Now we're here at Outlier. Outlier is our first big global conference, and we're excited that you've joined us. As we think about what we've created over the last 2 years, we've created a lot of things. The annual census survey, challenges, fireside chats, Data Viz Buddies programs, and we partnered with other Data Viz organizations and conferences around the world like DataFest Tbilisi, Data Viz Live based out of London, and the Blackened Data Group, who went ahead and hosted back in November a week-long celebration of the voices and expertise of Black data practitioners from all different disciplines, from epidemiology to data analytics. All of these partnerships and projects have been a wonderful starting place for us to be able to connect with other communities and be able to build resources and tools for our members. We also have a wide social media reach and love engaging and interacting with many of you through comments on Nightingale, Slack notes, or even just replies to our email blasts. We spend a lot of time communicating to you and probably a little bit less time listening. And I'm committed to making sure that we're spending more time listening over the course of the next 2 years. I love our platform that we have on Instagram, where I actually can discover new DataViz practitioners, because we actually reshare content that's tagged with @DataViz Society. And it's a great place to discover really neat, interesting projects, like the My Turtle Footprint project, where someone was actually going ahead and creating small silicone molded turtle footprints of their individual plastic waste. What a fascinating way to kind of rethink something in our day-to-day lives with data and art. Nightingale has been one of our biggest successes, which has become a journal that didn't exist in June of 2019, and now has grown into a publication that typically publishes upwards of 20 articles a month that are wonderful, high-quality pieces about everything from the basics and fundamentals of how to do something in data visualization design to more topical deep dives. And I would be remiss to finish this section without pointing to the ways in which finances and other resources have enabled us to actually go ahead and build and scale this organization. In 2020 alone, we paid out $66,750 to our Nightingale contributors, all of which was enabled by our partnership with Medium. For Outlier, we're paying $300 honorariums to each of our speakers that are on the formal agenda. And that's only possible because of the generous support of many of our sponsors, who have also enabled us to provide the sliding scale for ticket sales. Behind the scenes, there's a lot of volunteer labor that happens, over 100 hours a week from the board and committee members. And that was an estimation before we took on the scope of actually going ahead and running a global event like Outlier. That number has gone sky high over the last couple of months. But when you think about all of the different assets and tools and resources available to DVS members, think about the people that make that possible. All of this to be said is that we've been laying the foundation over the last 2 years of a global organization and creating various different new programs. When we ask members about what they think of when they think about DVS, they often say Slack, Nightingale, newsletter, various different assets or attributes. And I'm hoping that Outlier will soon be on that list. But I also hope that as we talk about what we're achieving in 2021, we'll also start talking more about connections and community. So let's talk more about where we're going and what our goals are as a DVS board and as an organization. We are building the global professional organization for DataViz. That's our goal. And we want to bring together both experienced and new practitioners, researchers, designers, developers, creators, students, and data enthusiasts who are working across tech stacks and domains of expertise. This is critically important to us that we become a convening space for people who are working in these various different disciplines. Outlier is one of our first forays into that goal, bringing together our global community through an event that has 20 hours a day of programming, enabling people in any time zone to connect and join us live and in real time. Now, that may mean if you're on the East Coast, like I am here in Washington, D.C. in the U.S., that some of the sessions start at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I'm looking forward to catching up on some of those, on some of the recordings asynchronously, since that's a little bit before the time when my alarm goes off. As we think about our goals over the course of the next year, we want to focus on 3 key things. 1, we want to make sure we understand our members more. That means we want to hear from you, and we'll be seeking out better ways to connect with you and learn from you about what your interests are and what you want to see happen within DVS. How can we better support and facilitate and build this community? We also want to engage our members and find meaningful ways to bring people together, not just through events, but through ways in which we help you find other like-minded people working in similar disciplines or with similar challenges to connect with each other. This means focusing on more community building, scaling our successes, things like Nightingale that has a planned print run over the course of 2021, and piloting new initiatives, scaling our Buddies program over to becoming a formal mentorship program, for example. That move into mentorship is just one of those programs we've already talked about and put on our roadmap. We also want to revisit the local affiliated groups model that we launched back at the unfortunate timing of March 2020, when we actually were up against a global pandemic that shut down most in-person events. But we're excited to revisit that and connect communities around the world. We also want to find ways to help make Slack more navigable and easier for you to find and make sense of. We know the Slack community can be overwhelming when you first join with all the channels. And in the course of the next month, we're planning on launching a new app called Pollen that will actually enable you to explore and see the various different channels and what's happening in those channels across the Slack environment, hopefully discovering new ways to connect with people in Slack. We also are planning on launching a DVS marketplace for connecting freelancers, people looking for jobs, and people who are looking for great data viz talent, and a data visualization accreditation program. These are both being led with our partnerships director with support from our education director. And the accreditation program is not geared towards creating a gatekeeping mechanism into data visualization, but rather formalizing the ways in which people can move into and do work in this space. Finally, we want to build for sustainability and scalability as we go ahead and think through what lies next for Data Visualization Society. As we look forward, we have to not only seek to create the structures and systems, but also find the recurrent finances, revenue, and resources that allow us to live our value that paying contributors for their labor creates a more inclusive DVS and means a continued focus on resources in 2021. We are actively seeking operational funding partners, grants, and other approaches to building a more sustainable base of resources, and we welcome your ideas on how we can do so. So as we wrap up and we think about where we're going into 2021 and beyond, I hope that you've heard some of the things today and some of the stories from our first 2 years and are either interested in joining DVS or getting more involved. We have many ways you can. You can join the community, volunteer in different ways, subscribe to different channels, read Nightingale, donate expertise and time, and even sponsor our various different events. So as we wrap up right now, I'm excited to go ahead and see what the next day and a half of Outlier has to bring to us. Some more of the great speeches, talks, and topics, joining some of the unconference sessions, and being able to connect with more of you one-on-one over on Slack or in some of the breakout rooms. If you have an idea or feedback for DVS, please feel free to find me on Slack or email at executive@datavisualizationsociety.org. I'd love to hear from you and learn more about what your ideas are for how we continue to grow this global community.